We just saw is our national mammal. Chantal mentioned this is our national bird. However, the bald eagle was not, it's not just our national bird, it was our first national symbol. So the first thing that was decided to be a representation of America. Bison, that law was passed in just 2016. Anyone know what year the bald eagle became our national symbol?
1907.
1782. Wow. Didn't take them very long. It's been our national bird and our national symbol since 1782. All right, here's your general taxonomy. Domain eukarya, that just means they have cells with cell walls, nucleus, that fun stuff. They are an animal. They have a backbone. They are a bird. Order Accipitriformes is diurnal birds of prey. Your family Accipitridae still includes most diurnal birds of prey, but it excludes New World vultures, ospreys, and secretary birds. So it's your eagles, hawks, and kites, and similar. Genus, again, Haliaetus. There are 8 species within genus Haliaetus. I'm going to show you a little bit of a tree next. And then Leucocephalus. Okay. This is just your birds, so within the order Aves. You can see we have Accipitridae family down there on the side. Bald eagles, are considered sea eagles. That is everything within Haliaetus genus. There are 8 species total. It includes the Steller sea eagle, the African fish eagle, are a couple that people have heard of, and several others. They're known as sea eagles because they all live in and around bodies of water, and they all tend to feed on fish and other aquatic life forms. Here is within the family Accipitridae. So I wanted to show this because a lot of people who are not avid birders, haven't taken a lot of ornithology classes, the only 2 eagles that we have in North America are the bald eagle and the golden eagle. So people tend to assume that they're closely related. They're really not. You can see our sea eagles are down here within Melvini. That's a tribe. Ornithologists in particular like to use tribes. There's also tribes of ducks. So tribe Melvini includes sea eagles, that's bald eagles. Right below it, their closest relatives, Butyonidae. That includes your red-tailed hawks. That's some of their closest relatives. Golden eagles, all the way up, they're considered booted eagles. Achillinae. We'll go with that. So they're actually not particularly closely related. They're just the only 2 eagle species that we have here in North America. All right, appearance. I think many of us, even if we've never seen a bald eagle in the wild, many people have seen photos of it. They're everywhere in pop culture. They're very photogenic. They're known, of course, for their bright white head, not bald, very feathered, but white feathers. Gorgeous white tail. Their beak and feet are very yellow. The rest of their body is very dark. That's not how they're hatched, though. It takes a full 5 years to achieve that adult plumage. I'm going to show you a little bit of the progression on the next few slides. And as adults, in fact as juveniles as well, there's no sexual dimorphism as far as color or pattern goes. So they look the same color-wise. Here are your hatchlings. I think they're pretty cute. So these birds are probably just a few days to a few weeks old. These are very young birds. They have light-colored downy feathers. As they start to grow up, a few weeks into their life, they start to grow these darker colored actual feathers that will eventually allow them to fly. So their color changes every year. If you're an avid birder, you can tell a 1st through 5th year bald eagle, 1st through 4th year, once they're 5th year, they're adult, they all look the same. But a 1st through 4th year bald eagle just by their plumage. So they molt once a year, their plumage changes during that molt, but it's not as much of a catastrophic molt like some ducks do, for example. It takes them about 6 months to complete a molt. So half the time they're molting, half the time they're fully dressed. Good question?
So, yes, thanks. Are they gray then like that all the way until they're 5 years old?
No, I'll go through the stages.
Oh, I'm
next
sorry.
ones. Yeah, so this is just your 1st year bird. So this is about 6 weeks old or so. They'll have their mostly brown feathers all the way up through approximately 1 year old. They're very dark in color, often confused with golden eagles because they hit adult size within about 6 weeks. So these are huge, big birds. But this is your 1st year. They have dark eyes, dark feathers, dark beaks. And this one, we were looking at his feet, we think he might just be covered in mud. They're not particularly known for having dark feet, but not as bright yellow as your adult. So this is your juvenile 1st year bird. So second year, their eyes are the first things that will start to lighten. So they lighten to kind of a grayish brown, not yellow yet. Their superciliary, that's the area above your eyebrow, fun bird terminology, starts to become light colored. So you can see on our bird on the right here, it's a little bit lighter above his eye. I'm going to clear around the screen, you'll be able to see it when you make the slideshow. And their body feathers lighten quite a bit. They're not solid white, they're a mottled white and brown. Our third year birds, which is the one further from me, these guys are often considered confused for ospreys. And you can see their head feather coloration is very similar to an osprey in their third year. Their bills begin to turn more yellow, their eyes begin to turn yellow. And then you'll see the feathers on their head and their tail begin to lighten, but they won't have that full, beautiful white yet. They still look kind of dirty looking is how they're described. Fourth year birds are pretty close. Here's a fourth year bird right here, but you can see there's a lot of mottled brown on the head and the tail still, and there's a lot of sort of light under the wings that's still there. Your further bird is a beautiful adult bald eagle, nice yellow bill, white head, dark body. So that's a fifth year bird. All right, so first year bald eagles, often confused with golden eagles, especially if you see them from a distance. So here's a good cheat sheet for you. Your juvenile bald eagle, solid dark. The place to look is on the head. Golden eagles are called golden eagles because they have that golden tinge on the back of their head, on the nape. If you get a good look at an adult bald eagle, it's not too hard to pick out. So if there's no golden tinge to the head, it's probably a juvenile bald. The other thing to look at is their beak. Juvenile bald eagles have a ridiculously large beak in comparison to their head. Golden eagles are actually larger than bald eagles, but a bald eagle's beak is going to look proportionally larger than a golden eagle's is. And then if they're flying, it's a bit easier. Their underwing coloring is pretty distinct. Your adult golden eagle is very dark underneath. Younger golden eagles will sometimes have white sort of patchwork going on under there, but never in the wing pit area. Yes, that's exactly what it sounds like. It's an armpit, but it's a wing. So in the wing pit, bald eagles are always solid, dark wing. Sorry, golden eagles, I think I misspoke, are always a solid, dark wing pit. Your bald eagle will always have light colors in the wing pits. So that's, if you can get a look at them flying through the air, that's your best thing to look at to distinguish between a juvenile bald and a golden. All right, here's your fun facts. It didn't quite fit into anything else. I mentioned there's no sexual dimorphism in color, but they do exhibit reverse sexual dimorphism in size. Females average about 25% larger than males when they're full grown. This was my favorite, just fun fact for no particular reason. Their plumage weighs 700 grams. That's twice as much as their skeletons. Wow. An entire bald eagle skeleton only weighs about 350 grams. Wow. Their feathers weigh more than their skeleton. Wingspan is 6 to 8 feet, so not quite as big as a California condor, but a large adult bald eagle is quite big. They can weigh anywhere from 6.5 to 14 pounds. Again, that's the males that tend to weigh less. 14 is probably a very large female. Normal lifespan in the wild is up to 28 years, but there was a recorded wild bird that lived to 38 years. It was actually found because it was hit by a car, unfortunately. It had been banded in the same state where it was found 33 years earlier. So it had been banded in its adult plumage. They knew it was at least 5 years old. 33 years later it was killed. So that bird was at least 38 years old, which is ridiculous. In captivity though, they do tend to live to be 50 years old or so. So fingers crossed our birds here will all live to 50 years old. Sexual maturity, 4 to 5 years. More commonly 5, but it is not too crazy for 4-year-old females especially to be able to eat. Diet. All right, their prey of choice is fish. They especially love salmon, but they're not too picky. They'll eat herring, carp, catfish, any other fish they can get their claws on. And when fish is plentiful, it will be the majority of their diet. They're also known for eating water birds. My camp name is Mallard, so when I found this one, I had to put it in the presentation. They do eat ducks. And then the most common water bird is actually coots. Coots are really easy targets. They live in really large flocks. It's really easy for a bald eagle to just swoop down, pick off a coot with its feet, fly away to a safe place to eat it. They will also prey on small mammals and are known for feeding on carrion as well. They are scavengers as well as hunters. This top photo is one particular nest, I believe it was in Florida, where biologists climbed up and found a ton of turtle shells in the nest. So they can get through a turtle shell if there are a lot of them around. If it's a good food source, they'll go for it. Oh, it's in Louisiana. There we go. I have notes here. Okay, so as we've all heard, rumor has it, Ben Franklin did not want them to be our national symbol because they are known for stealing food from other birds. I actually read that that was a myth during this research. I'm not sure, Ben Franklin's not here, we can't ask him. But they absolutely are known for pirating food from other birds. So I have a video here, we'll see how well this cooperates. Most commonly, they take food from ospreys. They will also steal from bears. They'll take that salmon right from the bear, river otters, and even other bald eagles. All right, so the ospreys have fish in its talons, bald eagles chase them down. They pretty much chase them until they get tired of being chased. The osprey will drop the fish. Delicious dinner. And the bald eagle's gonna not gonna let it hit the water. He's gonna grab it.
Look at those feet. Oh my Lord.
Unfortunately, he went behind the trees. But it is perfectly normal for them to catch the fish out of the air. All right. So it's older, larger birds, as you might logically expect, that are more likely to engage in piracy. I did find sites that called it piracy, and they were legitimate sites, so you can call them pirate birds. Younger, smaller birds are more likely to be hunting for themselves and then having to avoid the older and larger birds. So when they do hunt, like most raptors, all raptors, they have these large, powerful feet, really sharp talons, and then because bald eagles specialize in fish are really slimy and slippery, they have bumps on the bottom of their feet. They're called spicules, and it basically creates more friction so they can more easily grab a fish. It won't slip out of their feet on the way to their perch to eat it.
Could you show us that over there? I couldn't see it.
The spicules on the feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you might need to get a closer look at this photo when you guys get the slideshow, but it's basically just all those tiny little bumps that are on the bottom of the feet, the inside of the foot, which just creates a rough surface that makes it easier for them to grab the slippery fish. And then they don't eat things whole, they do rip them into pieces, so like other raptors, they have a nice knife and fork bill. So strongly hooked, very sharp, great for tearing up a fish into bite-sized pieces. So when they go to take a fish out of the water, pretty cool, they go in feet first, grab it right out, and keep right on going. We don't need this. There we go. So they do a couple of replays here. Yeah, here we go. So feet straight out. He sees the fish under there. I don't see it, but here he goes. And there's dinner.
Amazing, huh?
He just barely got that one. Like right on his face.
Look at that. Oh, that's awesome.
Right? And we have some real talons in our BioFact collection that you guys will be able to use when you're interpreting them too. We're hoping to get an actual foot. We don't have a foot right now, but we'd like to get a bald eagle foot.
Oh,
Yeah, they're incredibly powerful birds. There's your little Swede.
Wonder how often they fall in the water.
That's a great question. I don't know the answer. They can swim. There are documented sightings of them swimming, so if they fall, they can get out. Okay.
What that video did not show is that they will go from the lake right up to the top of the tree with that fish in their talons.
Oh yeah, they have to worry about,
Unbelievably strong.
yeah, they have to worry about other bald eagles coming in and trying to get that fish from them. So yeah, they'll beeline right for us to safe space. All right, social behavior. So we think of, a lot of people know they're monogamous, they mate for life, but they are considered solitary animals. During non-nesting season, they're hanging out on their own, they're just taking care of themselves. But they do form very strong pairs during nesting season. They are considered monogamous. They will return to the same nest and the same mate year after year. If a mate passes away, they will take a new mate, but only if something happens. They do roost communally, especially in non-breeding season in areas with ample prey. So if you've ever been out to, say, the Tule Lake area, they're known for their huge bald eagle flyouts in the winter. Still not really considered social, though. There's no sort of hierarchy or interaction going on. It's just that there's a lot of food, so there's a lot of bald eagles. They're all kind of out for themselves. All right, communication. So, bald eagles are everywhere in movies, in TV shows. Usually their sound is dubbed over. They are our national symbol. They're this really giant, powerful looking bird. People think that they should sound giant and powerful looking. So let me click through. Nope. I'm just kidding. All right, so one of the best known bald eagles that does not actually sound like a bald eagle was used for a long time while the Colbert Report was running. Let me pull this up for you. So it's right at the end. It's a 20-second clip. Listen for the bald eagle flash through at the end. That was a red-tailed hawk. That was a red-tailed hawk. Here, I'll play the last few seconds for it again. That is your red-tailed hawk call. So, bald eagle actually sounds like this.
We're going to be disappointed.
They're actually quite cute.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it sounds much smaller.
It's chirping.
Boy, that is not.
Okay, and there were actually 2 different calls in there. So bald eagles have several different calls. The first one you hear is just their normal chatter. That's like their everyday, hey, how you doing? I got a fish. Did you get a fish today? How's it going? And then their keel call is their alarm call. So in the middle of this, you're going to hear sort of a, ah! Not quite a red-tailed hawk, but a change in call. So that's their alarm call. That'll be, if there's another, say, bald eagle approaching their nesting territory, they're warning them to get out of the way. Or humans. They often make that call in response to humans encroaching on their territory as well. I think it's all the way up. One more time. Ah, there we go.
So that's the chatter.
So go back like 10 seconds.
That's the alarm. Followed by the chatter.
So that's what an actual bald eagle sounds like. Not nearly as good for a talk show opening.
That was cute.
All right. Oh, it was there. There we go. Okay, so reproduction. We talked about how they're monogamous. They mate for life. They build humongous nests, not the biggest of the bird world, but very large. They average 5 to 6 feet in diameter and 2 to 4 feet tall, but they can be much, much larger than that. The pairs will work together to build a nest. The male and the female both contribute, and they will reuse the same nest year after year, and they will add on to that nest year after year. So the humongous nests are nests that have been in use for 10, 15, 20 years sometimes. The female lays average of 1 to 3 eggs. 2 is the most common. Double clutching is not common if the nest fails, but it is possible. They're not consistently double clutchers like condors are if their nests fail. It's uncommon but possible. Incubation lasts approximately 35 days, and the male and female do both share incubation duties. They will trade off. There's always one parent sitting on the nest. The other parent will generally be out foraging for food.